The universe has something important to tell you today. A message that does not arrive in a hurry, but with depth. This is not a loud revelation. It's more like a silent touch that insists on being felt. There is something between you and another person that still pulses, even if it is silent. And maybe when you hear this now, you realize that this message came exactly when it needed to be heard. There is a kind of silence that does not bring peace. It is the one that carries everything that has not yet been said, but that insists on making itself present in other ways. The universe knows that there is someone in your life with whom the conversation has been left half-finished, or perhaps has not even really begun. The connection between you is alive, but covered by a kind of blockage. It's not disinterest and it's not always fear. Sometimes it's just the way that person found to deal with everything that is still going on inside them. You feel there is something different in the air, a strange distance, a subtle change in the tone of voice, the frequency of messages, the type of presence. It is not a complete absence. It's as if the person is there, but with a hidden part, as if they are facing something, but trying to resolve it alone before opening up any space of vulnerability. This is someone who has difficulty showing fragility, who prefers to organize everything internally before sharing. This attitude may seem cold, but it is not a lack of affection. On the contrary, it comes from the desire to show only the best, to offer something already processed, already understood. But time goes by and you start to realize that this effort to control creates a barrier, and even without wanting to, you feel that something is lost there. Still, you worry because the feeling that exists between you has not disappeared, and the universe confirms it. There is love in that connection. Not just attraction or good memories, but a deep feeling of mutual recognition. You share similar traits, similar views, a sensitivity that is not common to find in just anyone. And that's why this silence weighs. You realize something is not right, even if there is no clear evidence. It is a strong intuition, almost as if the heart whispers that the other is facing something important. And the most curious thing is that this person also feels your presence. Even on the most confusing days, even without talking to you directly, there is a part of her that knows you are there, feeling, waiting, intuiting. The universe looks at this with compassion because it knows this connection is not superficial. You know that even if you are going through a period of separation, the bond remains. Time may change forms, but it does not dissolve the essential. What was truly felt remains in the subtle field, waiting for the right moment to emerge again with greater strength. You may be wondering why this person acts like this. Why won't it open? Why don't you respond like before? And the answer is more complex than it seems. Sometimes she doesn't even understand why she closes herself off. There are days when you want to write, call, show up, but something stops you. Maybe a fear, maybe inner confusion. She starts composing the message and stops, opens the conversation and closes it. That doesn't mean you don't matter. It just means she's still dealing with things she doesn't even know how to name. And you feel all of it. Feel it because your connection is energetic, it is emotional, it is spiritual. When something changes in the other, you notice. When something tightens, you feel it. And this sensitivity is also a form of love. This phase, as strange as it may seem, is not definitive. The universe does not act by chance. What is happening now is part of an alignment process. Perhaps the silence is paving the way for a truer, more conscious conversation. Maybe the break is clearing away the excess so that the reunion can happen with more presence. But for now, what remains is this silence full of meaning. There is a type of distance that cannot be measured in kilometers. It manifests itself in brief responses, in averted glances, in invitations not made. It is an absence that takes up space, that weighs on the environment even when the person is nearby. And the universe wants you to know. This separation did not arise because something died between you. On the contrary, it exists precisely because there is still something pulsing alive, trying to find a place to reorganize itself. Have you ever noticed that some connections get suspended in time? They don't end, but they don't move forward either. They do not disappear, but they do not consolidate either. They remain in a limbo where everything is felt, but little is said. And that's exactly where you find yourself now. Something has changed. Although you still feel this person strongly, they seem more closed off, more contained, as if they are experiencing something they cannot put into words. The universe observes this movement with wisdom. This person is not distant due to lack of affection. The issue is deeper. They are trying to deal with what they feel, understand what is happening inside themselves, and reorganize emotions they may never have learned to express. Some people carry old wounds that do not allow them to make space for others without first ensuring they will not be touched. Others have learned that they only deserve to offer something when everything is ready. And that may be exactly what's happening here. Even so, you feel like being there, helping, understanding. You may also feel a growing frustration at not being able to access this person as you used to. The dialogue between you was once more spontaneous, lighter, more frequent. Now you find yourself watching the signs, trying to interpret gestures, intonations, and short messages, as if you were deciphering a language that was once so familiar. But the universe wants to remind you of one thing: the bond between you is real. That's exactly why it hurts. When there is no real connection, separation does not cause this kind of unrest. But when there is history, affection, and identification, the absence leaves questions in the air, leaves the feeling that something is missing that should be there. Still, the best answer doesn't always come from a demand. Sometimes you just have to hold the space patiently, with a silent presence, with listening that doesn't demand anything in return. There are times when the other person isn't clear about what they feel or doesn't feel safe enough to share. Not because they don't trust you, but because they're afraid of what they might find when they look inside. And you, in turn, may also be hoarding things. Perhaps there are emotions you didn't reveal, questions you preferred to swallow, feelings you hid so as not to put pressure on. This exchange of silences, even if unconscious, creates a dense energy field, where words get stuck and intentions are misplaced. The universe is trying to help you break this cycle. It's bringing hearts closer together on the inside, even if the words aren't flowing on the outside yet. This connection continues to exist in the invisible. There are gestures, memories, and small signs that continue to unite you in a discreet but constant way. You notice this in dreams, in synchronicities, in the thought that appears suddenly, without warning, in the middle of the day. This presence that insists on returning to your mind is not an illusion. It is attached to you. Even if that person doesn't yet have the courage to open up completely, they miss you, they feel the difference that your presence makes in their life. But now the internal movement that this person is experiencing is stronger than any desire for closeness. They have to go through this alone, but that doesn't mean you've been forgotten. On the contrary, it is often by thinking about you that this person finds the strength to carry on. It is by remembering the happy moments that they can believe that the light still exists. And it is with you in mind that one day they may have the courage to come back and tell you everything. Meanwhile, the universe invites you to take care of your inner space, to trust that, even in silence, the connection between you continues to transform. There are days when you wake up with a strange feeling, as if something has changed, even without any new news. You try to go on with your routine, but that impression remains like an off-key note in a song you know well. It's as if your body is listening to something that your mind can't yet decipher. The universe wants you to take this intuition seriously, because when there is a soul connection, information comes from within, without needing a logical explanation. You feel this person even without seeing them. You realize that there is something dense in the air, a sadness, a restlessness, a weight. Maybe they're facing a difficult decision, maybe they're dealing with emotions they've avoided for a long time. And you pick up on this not because you're obsessed or needy, but because there's a real bond between you. A bond that is not broken by distance or time. The universe shows you that this person feels the same way. They also notice your presence, even if they don't say so. At unexpected moments, your image appears in their mind. Sometimes, while doing something every day, like washing the dishes, driving, or going to bed, a memory of yourself comes back vividly, in detail. And in that moment, that person's heart hesitates, because even though they're trying to move away, there's something in you that still makes them feel at home, but at the same time there's a blockage. They think about looking for you and almost start writing. They pick up their cell phone, open the conversation, type a few words and delete it. They stare at the empty screen for a few seconds and decide not to send it. It's not out of contempt, it's because they don't know how to start, because they're afraid of worrying or showing a side that they don't consider ready. This person has a habit of trying to protect others from themselves, including you. This protection often turns into a barrier, which confuses you because you feel there's something important that needs to be said, something that can no longer be hidden. But you don't understand why they refuse to cross that bridge. The truth is, they don't understand either. There's an internal conflict between what they feel and what they allow themselves to show, and this conflict paralyzes them. In this scenario, your sensitivity becomes an essential tool. The universe is inviting you to trust your perceptions more. You are not exaggerating, you're not imagining things. You are capturing what has not yet been verbalized. This kind of insight is rare, but precious. It shows that the connection between you doesn't depend on external confirmations to exist. There's an energetic exchange taking place. You think about them and they feel it. They think about you and you feel it too. It's not a balanced exchange at this point, because one is more willing to open their heart than the other. But the bond remains. The current silence is not a sign of the end, but rather of an ongoing process, a process that requires pause, listening, and perhaps courage. You may be wondering whether you should persist, whether you should try one more time. The universe doesn't give definitive answers, but it invites you to reflect on something. You are willing to listen to this person, even if what they have to say isn't easy. You are ready to embrace not only what you feel for them, but also the parts they try to hide. Because that's what's at stake now, the possibility of more truthful communication. Not a conversation full of certainties and beautiful statements, but a real dialogue where doubts, fears, and silences are allowed. It's an honest exchange where neither of you needs to constantly perform security. This connection may be about to enter a new cycle, but for this to happen, at least one of you must take the first step towards the truth. Perhaps that person is still too stuck to do that. And maybe the universe is preparing you to be that opening point. Even if the answer takes time, even if the feedback doesn't come immediately, your truth has value. And when it is said with respect, with presence, with sensitivity, it will be felt. ##### enduring memories and mutual longing. There are memories that do not fade, even with the passing of time. Some stories remain alive, not because they are constantly revived, but because they left deep marks. The universe wants to remind you that everything that was built between the two of you, the conversations, the laughter, the knowing looks, the shared silences, still exists and continues to echo within each of you. That's why even in the midst of the current distance, you feel homesick. And the most beautiful thing is that this longing is mutual. Even if it is not said out loud, it is present. This person misses you, your energy, the way you looked at them, the way they felt welcome just by being in your presence. These are memories that arise when least expected, as if the heart wanted to remember what is possible when there is true connection. This memory doesn't just appear when everything goes wrong. Sometimes, in the middle of a good moment, that person thinks of you. They remember a specific conversation, a song you shared, something that only made sense between you. This happens because the bond was not superficial. You have left a mark on each other on a level that is difficult to explain in words. The universe shows that these moments are still relevant. These are not just closed chapters, they are foundations. They serve as a basis for what can still be rebuilt, if both parties are willing. But more than that, they are also reminders that not everything has to end forever. Some connections just change phase, and this could be one of them. This person thinks about what they experienced with you with affection and respect. They may seem cold or distant on the outside, but inside there is a whole field of memories that they still visit. And somehow those memories help them move on. They function as an anchor, not to bind them, but to remember that there is something deeper that everyday life often tries to cover up. You also feel this nostalgia and maybe even doubt it at times. Asterisk, am I not romanticizing it? Does this person feel the same way? Asterisk, but the universe comes to reinforce, yes, they feel it. They recognize the importance you had and still have in their journey, but they still haven't found the best way to express it. It is difficult for those who are going through an internal process to find words that do not hurt or confuse. Oftentimes, this person will even try to protect you from themselves. They are afraid to reopen something they don't know if they can sustain, but at the same time, the affection they feel is genuine. And that's what causes this ambiguous behavior, the presence of love and the fear of exposure. Perhaps you recall a journey you shared or an ordinary day that, for some reason, became exceptionally special. These simple yet intense moments linger, and that person remembers them too, sometimes even more vividly than you might imagine. When these memories surface, you feel a sense of nostalgia, but also a desire to experience that feeling again. The universe is showing you that these emotions are not confined to the past. They persist in the present and can indeed hint at a future, provided they are embraced with maturity, clarity, and the understanding that both of you have changed. What you experienced was not an illusion, and what you feel today is not either. That's why there's this discomfort in the air. The feeling continues to demand acknowledgement, not to relive the past, but to pave the way for something new, something truer, more conscious, and more aligned with who you are now. This pause, as challenging as it may be, is facilitating this maturation, giving each person time to understand their place in the story. When the time is right, the unresolved conversation can finally occur, not in haste or with demands, but with truth. Sometimes all that remains between two people is a silent, yet not empty, field, a silence filled with presence, memories, and unspoken intentions. The universe wants you to understand that this is also a form of communication. Even if no words have been exchanged lately, the interaction between you continues on another, more subtle plane, where energy speaks for itself. This person misses more than just your company or conversations. They miss what you awakened in them: lightness, attentive listening, courage, and truth. They miss being seen in a way that few others have been able to see, and that feeling doesn't simply vanish. Even if they try to move on, even if they are occupied with other things, a part of them remains connected to you. The universe is working behind the scenes of this story. The distance that now seems strange can be a tool for each person to introspect, ensuring that this connection isn't lost amidst repetitions and old patterns, so that if a reunion occurs, it will be more mature, more transparent, and more genuine. The most curious thing is that this person also senses this movement. There are days when they wake up wanting to reach out to you, not necessarily to revisit something from the past, but simply to hear your voice, know how you are, and feel again that unique vibration that only you bring. But something still stops them. Perhaps an internal burden, unresolved pride, or fear of no longer being welcome. However, the energy between you doesn't lie. The universe insists on bringing your frequencies closer, on orchestrating unseen encounters, and on reminding you through dreams, music, and memories that a conversation still needs to happen, a conversation not about the past, but about what is still alive. This connection was not born by chance, and it doesn't dissolve easily either. It's one of those connections that arrive to teach, transform, and awaken dormant parts. You learned a lot by this person's side, and even though there's still a lack of clarity about your future, one thing is certain: this story changed both you and them. The universe clarifies that it's not just about waiting for a message, a gesture, or a return. It's about trusting that if this reunion is part of your path, it will come, and it will come with truth, with maturity, and with dedication. In the meantime, your role is not to force anything. It is simply to remain available in love, without losing yourself, without closing yourself off, without erasing what you feel. You may feel like you've done everything you can, and perhaps that's true. Now is the time to let go with confidence, to allow time to reveal the next step. The universe does not forget promises made between souls. If that connection still has something to accomplish, it will find a way to manifest itself at the right time. This person feels this. They know that something was left open, they know that you feel, that you perceive, that you remain connected to them. And even though they don't know how to express it now, this awareness exists within them. There is love, admiration, longing, and, above all, a silent desire not to lose this rare bond. Life may have separated you temporarily, but what is true returns. When it returns, it's not to repeat, it's to do better. The universe wants you to know, when two souls recognize each other, no distance is enough to undo what was truly felt. Silence is not absence, it is an interval. And a pause is not always a rupture, sometimes it is preparation. Trust in the strength of what has been experienced. Trust in what can still blossom.